talking about new tech. And joining me on the stage is going to be quite an eclectic duo. We're going to have Max Kantelia, a seasoned serial entrepreneur, and also Bo G, so quite a different couple. Bo G and Max Kantelia, please come and join me on the stage. Yep. I know, yeah. Okay. Do we have Max? Max is somewhere, perhaps? Ben, have you seen Max somewhere? Max is not there. He must be out having a coffee. We'll perhaps wait for just a moment to see what's happening. I've heard that Serge, we were expecting, by the way, ladies and gentlemen, Serge Maillard. Serge called just a little while ago and said he was not well and couldn't make it. Malheureusement, Serge Maillard n'a pas pu nous rejoindre cet après-midi. Il va pas bien. Donc, malheureusement, il peut pas venir. So, we're quite sorry for Serge. I hope you get well. If anybody's in contact with him, hope he can get well. Now, I know Max was around, so perhaps... is that Max? No, it's not Max. Okay. We probably have someone out there looking for him. He might be out having a coffee. Okay. We have Max, yes. You were out having a coffee, right? Goodness me, that's a bad form, Max. Max, thank you for joining us. No, yeah, so thank you for joining us, and it's great to have you here. Bo, perhaps first you can introduce yourself. I know you've also got a couple of slides to explain things. And yeah, tell me about... no, I think they can run this. Do you want to run this? I'll bring you the beep thing for the slides, if you like. Okay, right.
My name is rather short, so easy to remember. So if you don't remember anything during this conference but my name, so it's Bo G, first name B-O, last name is J-I. So I live in Paris. Sometimes I tell people, je suis beau. And then people say that you're so confident. How do you think you're so beautiful? That's in French, it means beautiful. So I was born in Shanghai, and I lived in China for some time, and then went to New York. So I lived in America for 15 years, working in many large corporations. Some of them are not really nice, so I decided to quit, start my own business for a few years, start two businesses, and eventually I moved to France, and so now I live in Paris, being there for 14 years. Now, right now, I'm head of Cheung Graduate School of Business, which is a leading business school in Beijing. We have campuses all across China and also New York City and in London as well. I oversee the European operation. Our school has, in the past 5 years, graduated 136 unicorn founders. And we also graduated 20,000 chairman CEOs, including Jack Ma of Alibaba, and also chairman, founder of TikTok, etc. So we have a tremendous influence in Asia, and we try to also help Europeans here to generate a lot of disruptions. And we created a unicorn program in fashion and luxuries management with SDA Bocconi, the Italian business school, in November this year. So we wanted to help the luxury sector. That's why I'm here, wanted to share the perspective from Asia.
Okay. Perhaps, Max, introduce yourself. I know I've looked at your background, and it's going to take me too long to try and explain who you are. I'll let you explain to everybody a little bit about your background.
Thank you. It's great to be here on this Geneva afternoon. So my name's Max Kantelia, a little bit longer than the gentleman to my right. I've been described as a serial and parallel entrepreneur. I've been an entrepreneur for a very, very long time, and always a brave one. To keep the story short, having done some really, really interesting things with technology and finance, in 2010 I moved to Singapore. In Singapore, through some academic research, I fell in love with this thing called the blockchain. In 2014, I began a journey with a very lofty vision to build not just a railway, but to build townships around that railway, if you understand the analogy. I built a blockchain layer based on some academic research in 2015, And then over the last 8 years, I've actually been building an entire ecosystem of companies, both infrastructure level as well as application level, that allow businesses to create products and experiences in what we call Web 3.0, and also the spatial web, or the metaverse, as some people would call it. So I'm either a brave or a foolish entrepreneur. I don't really mind which one you call me. It's okay. That's my background.
Okay. Now, Max, you founded also is it the Zalika Group? Is that it? Yeah.
Yes, so that's the name of the entire group
yeah.
that I've founded.
Which encompasses MetaMinds, Rolling Thunders,
Yeah.
Token Tracks, XCAD. I mean, it's phenomenal, really. I mean, you know, in a sentence, it's a bit hard, but we'll talk about some of those things. Bo, you said that you've been working with chairmen and CEOs of companies all over China. What is different about your school that means that all these people have come from there? I mean, it seems quite extraordinary.
Yes, this has a lot to do with the China joined WTO in 2002. So when China joined WTO, before China was more domestic, oriented economy. After joining WTO, the business people need international knowledge, global, insights. So most of the Chinese business school at the time doesn't have those kind of knowledge. So we developed a strategy. We started there 22 years ago. We started there, and we offer what we call China Insight with global perspective. We hired the professors from Harvard, from Stanford, from Princeton, tenure professor to be back to China. So all of a sudden, when people like Jack Ma looking for a business school, they're not looking for reputation or brand. They're looking for insights and knowledge. And they say that CKGSB has those faculty bring those enormous insight over. So that's why from day one, our school has been what we call luxurious kind of education. Because we target a top pyramid of those executives, which has often been ignored by schools like Harvard, schools like INSEAD, but we target exclusively on those segments of those. And they come to us, they find great insight, they stay, and they let their children to join our school as well.
I know we've got some slides. Perhaps we can see
Sure.
the slides, and you can explain a little bit what we're
So
doing.
I wanted
I think
to...
it's not up. Oh, here we go.
Yeah, it's here. So I wanted to share with you a little bit of Asia perspective of luxuries, management and also strategies. I see most of the participants to this conferences are European oriented. So that makes sense. The organizer invite me to share a little bit of what, the Asia perspective. Now, Asia is very dynamic. Particularly in China, luxuries market, Chinese luxuries market before pandemic was 1/3 of the global market. So that is very strong. And the Chinese consumer, I was sharing with some of the participants, towards the attitude towards the luxury segment is they have the brand awareness, but they're not necessarily loyal to the brand, which is very good for a startup brands and for the small brand, because the consumer would love to accept your brand. Now, I wanted today share with you 3 stories or 3 cases to give you a little bit summary and impression, because I firmly believe that only through understanding specific case, then you can understand the whole story here. So the first slides here I have is from a real company based in Paris, but have operation in China, founded by a Chinese startup. It's called Haiwa in Chinese. In English, Haiwa. Now, this company is a cross-border e-commerce focused on luxury sector. They already signed up with 5,000 leading brands from Europe and around the world as well. Now, what they do is 3 important things that they innovated in the luxury sector. The first is to have technology like artificial intelligence and blockchains embedded into their platform. So from the consumer to choose, make a decision to choose what kind of fashion clothes or the pair of the watch or shoes to buy, then they use artificial intelligence to help you to make that selection. And customer service use the ChatGPT to do the translation because it's impossible to deal with all the different languages that comes to their side. And so I can talk, on and on about the technology they are putting into that. And second, next slide. They are very strong in terms of, next one. This one, we're going to just skip that. So they are embracing this concept of earn, for consumer, consume to earn. So they let consumer to earn. If any, I don't know whether anyone know Pinduoduo. Anyone know Pinduoduo? Yeah, I'm surprised to see some hands there. Pinduoduo, the founder is our alumni. They joined our school within 3 years IPO. So he became a multi-billionaire, very quickly. Now, this guy, when he started Pinduoduo, he understood Chinese consumer wanted to save money. So if the Chinese consumer can save money, they do anything for you. So what he did is, through Pinduoduo, what he did is that allow consumer to have a big discount. You perhaps know Groupon. Groupon basically give you the coupon, but Pinduoduo is like Groupon, but not giving you coupon. They're social e-commerce. They're saying that, okay, you can buy at this price, let's say $100 per piece, but if you send messages to your friend, eventually we have 1,000 people buy the same product, then the price became 50. So all of a sudden, everybody have the incentive to promote for your product. As a result, the company, cut this middleman, okay? And they use consumer as their free labor to market for that.
Isn't this a kind of multi-level marketing, though, in a way?
To some extent, but they did so successfully. They executed it so well. They understand the consumer psychology so well, for that. So this company, Haiwa, did similar things, but instead of, giving you discount, they give you actual money. So you actually earn the money. After you earn the money, you can only consume within their platform. You cannot, take the money away and then you go buy other things. No, you have to consume within their platform. So which became very important. Now, next slide. So they also use Web3, as you just mentioned. Use Web3, tokenize it to allow consumer to even be more engaged into this economy. So I only emphasize 3 points of this particular company. You see the Chinese company very innovative. They try to put latest technology and information into this. Next one. The next one is very interesting. It's a Chinese liquor company called Maotai. Anyone know this brand? Maotai? Few, yes. So Maotai is the number one, luxurious, liquor brand in China. Their stock price went so high. The market cap is huge. And nobody, Richard, if you ever invested in this company 10 years ago, you won't be here anymore because you will make loads of money, over that. So this liquor is like 54 degrees, so it's toxic, but people love it, particularly our alumni from our school love it. Next one. Now, this company is doing so successful. Now, hopefully, after you listen to this case, you're going to innovate and you maybe learn from them some lesson. So what they did is that they work with different brand. They work with coffee brand. Lucky Coffee. Anyone know Lucky Coffee? I hope you didn't invest a few years ago because their stock crashed. I have a student, who invested and then was so devastated. But they work with Lucky Coffee. They create something like coffee with liquor. Okay, so this is very creative. They made lots of money by creating this particular one because the consumer, while drinking coffee, you got drunk. That's a good idea, for you, to have two things in your blood. One is alcohol, the other one is coffee, And next slide. They work with a chocolate brand. They make the Dove chocolate. Chocolate is often associated with romance. So by putting liquor in the chocolate, their idea is like, I love you so much, I even got drunk. I have the love drunk for that. So now I encourage you, if you're exhausted with innovating in Europe for luxury sectors, because I see a lot of luxury sectors is very stagnant, lack of the vibe. So that's what I like about this conference. The first thing I told the owner of this conference is that I see a lot of lectures forum, but I don't see lecture innovation. So if you can take these stories, go home and to tell yourself that maybe I should work with a different industry player to create something that is very powerful. My consumer is going to love it. You know, this could be an idea you can take home. And then you maybe all of a sudden find yourself become so, attractive and interesting. The last one.
Just go on, sorry. Last one.
Okay, the last one, I'll very quick. So the BYD. Recently has generated a huge buzz in the Munich, car exhibition. So, I know the company very well, and the BYD traditionally considered to be more of a low-quality, low-end car. But somehow this model, the Seal, has selling more than Tesla Y model. Can you believe it? They have complete next slides. They completely renovated inside, made it very luxurious and very comfortable. When I was coming here to this summit, I had a Tesla drive me here. I mean, and I sit in the Tesla, I feel so uncomfortable. But this car is extremely comfortable and very luxurious. When you ride in this car versus Tesla, you will feel Tesla is not luxurious, but BYD is absolutely luxurious. They put a lot of technology into it, a lot of design into it, a lot of thinking into it. So I will just leave these three cases here because I know I don't have a lot of time, but hopefully you will gain something from this Chinese idea of what is luxury means to them. The Chinese, for luxury, for Chinese means the quality, means stability, and means sustainability, and also means comfortability for them.
Okay, thank you, Bo. Max, a few words from you now, because obviously we were just talking about partnerships. I mean, partnerships between chocolate and liquor companies. You've just been involved in a partnership with Google Cloud. Tell me about that.
Yeah, so last week, my blockchain company, Zilliqa Group, announced a unique partnership with Google, whereby Google actually becomes what's called a node within our blockchain network. And for those that don't understand the technicalities of the blockchain, it's a little bit like going back to the 1830s in the US as the Industrial Revolution was starting to kick into place. Because what happened at that time is that the people that were putting up the poles that connected, electricity pylons and, telegraph pylons together, only really started to become mainstream across the US when major players started to become involved in those networks. So with Google becoming a seed node holder within our network, that means it's a highly credible thing for us to have happen, but it means that our network is extremely stable, which becomes very important as we continue to build businesses on top of that network.
Now, you've been working across very different fields: luxury, music, automotive, fashion, esports, gaming. I mean, it's mind-boggling, but where are the sweet spots for you now?
Okay, so last week we announced that all these various different companies that I had built, I actually joined them up under one single brand, the Zilliqa Group. And the reason why I've done that 8 years after having started this journey is because for me, this is about joined up thinking. It's about the compound effect. So today what we're doing, and this conference clearly is about the luxury industry, we're working with some incredible brands, very quietly, to discern how we can create products and experiences for their customers using all of these different technologies that include music, as you were saying, that include luxury experiences and products, and we bring them all together on this blockchain technology that I was referring to. And in particular, I would say that brands that I've been speaking to are highly cognizant that today, Gen Z and lower end of the millennials are consuming huge amounts of the luxury that is sold today, whether it's in the original or the aftermarket, the secondary markets. And what we're working with brands to do is to identify how they can build loyalty with not just existing customers, but especially this community that we call Gen Z, who are consuming in very different ways, certainly to my generation.
So what you're doing is really giving access to new luxury buyers through these platforms. Tell me about MetaMinds, which was launched this week. That's your new thing, right?
So actually, MetaMinds is a rebrand of a company that we initially launched some 18 months ago at a big event in Miami. So MetaMinds is a first metaverse as a service company. So if you understand the term software as a service, or SaaS, what we have done is we've created the world's first metaverse as a service company, which means that people that want to build venues within the metaverse can come to us and they can use a toolkit that we've developed that quickly allows them to build venues in the metaverse. And I say the metaverse because in our language, it's a singular term, just as the World Wide Web is. So when people talk about building multiple metaverses, to me that sounds like people want to build walled gardens, which is not what Web 3.0 is about.
Someone earlier today was saying, yeah, the metaverse it's like treading water a little bit. But I mean, I think perhaps there have been some mistakes made in the last couple of years in terms of the rollout. What are your thoughts of the metaverse at the moment? I mean, you're right in the middle of it. What should be improved?
Well, Richard, it's a little bit like this. So we're in the equivalent of about 1994 with the internet. Probably most of these youngsters out there don't understand that. But you remember what the early stage internet was like to work with, dial-up modems and all the rest of it, and the telegraph saying that it would never ever work and all that. That's where we're at with the metaverse. And it's only through experimentation, through trial and error, that people will start to learn, how to apply this technology to, for commercial reasons, shall we say. Secondly, an awful lot of infrastructure needs to be built over the next 7 to 10 years in order for this technology to become mainstream, so that you aren't even thinking about what you're working with, just as you do today when you open your banking app or your travel app, you don't really think about what's going on at the infrastructure level. It'll be the same, but it's going to take time for that infrastructure to develop and for adoption to come.
Great. Do we have any, again, I want to throw that out there and say if anybody's got something to say, it doesn't have to be a question, but if you've got something to comment or something to add, or if you have a question, please let us know. In the middle here, we've got something, right? Do we have a microphone? I think a microphone's coming. Where? Just down towards the front. Yep. In the middle. There we go.
Thank you. I'm Philippe Rebos with Hospitality Global Company. I think everybody would agree that the human factor is the signature and the essence of the luxury industry. And we hear and see all luxury brands, luxury company claiming that people are their biggest assets for value creation. Now, we've heard many great stories in this room about innovations in the luxury products, luxury product distribution. But I'm wondering what kind of innovation is there in the industry for the human factor of the business to attract and retain people, to give more sense of purpose in what they do. We know for a fact that the luxury industry overall is struggling, attracting and retaining talents as it's growing. And what about innovation for the human factor of the luxury industry? Thank you.
That's a good question. And gentlemen, perhaps as technology facilitates tasks that are more banal for the humans can get into more interesting tasks in businesses. What would you say, Bo, to that?
It's an excellent question. So, to human, as the employee, as staff, to retain them and also to motivate them. I see a lot of innovation coming from Asia perspective is to really engage them into the design, technology, understand the consumer side of it, and they became more engaged, for that. So I give you an example. One of my friend run a high-end luxurious hotel business. So one of the things he did, and also I have so many examples, but I just jumping in my mind. But let me use this example. So he allowed the employee to be engaged by having the autonomy to waive the charges to the guest. And for VIP guests, he actually asked the employee to receive the guest and build the personal relationship with them. So I once was received as a VIP. So they literally, before I arrived, 5 minutes before, they all line up outside. And then there will be general manager come over, taking me to the room, explaining two things. And an employee over there have the right to say that if you're not happy, we will waive your charge for the stay or waive your charge for the dinner or whatever it is. So as a result, the employee feel, at the beginning, they feel like, okay, this is in China, not in America. So maybe you will invite a bunch of your friends to come to the hotel to stay, and then eventually you waive all the charges. But they didn't find that because people got respected for that. So there are this kind of innovation here to really retain the people, the talent, and mobilize. On statistics, only 10% of average company employees' talents are fully utilized, only 10%. So 90% are wasted. So your question is very, very important because majority of the company are busy to try to hire the best talent in the world. But hiring the talent is one thing, but retain the talent and actually utilize the talents they have is a different thing. So it's very much needed. I won't say from an Asia perspective, many companies are doing good, but there are companies who are trying to innovate in this area because they realize how important it is. Some companies like Alibaba, like Tencent, they have some small innovation. I won't say they're good. For instance, if you work until 9 o'clock, then you can take taxi home, being reimbursed. But, that's kind of different way of thinking. It's not necessarily making employee happy. You make employee working hard. And Tencent put the tent in their office if you don't need to go home because there's like tent. You can sleep in their shower room and stuff like that. Yeah. But that's not, the innovation.
No.
But there are some.
Max, how you're talking about Web3, the metaverse. How does that combine with better personal service for people in a hotel? Can that be working together? How can it work together?
Yes, it can, but I think that you have to look at this from the perspective of the brand. So, for example, I think we were talking about this yesterday. We have been doing some work for, a high-end hospitality brand, but in order to bring them closer to their customers, existing, and allow them to access new customers, what they've started to do is to conduct what I call multi-sensory experiences, whereby people who are fans of this particular brand can participate in music events. They can participate, believe it or not, in wine tasting events. And this happens both physically as well as digitally, where people can indeed participate in a concert, for example, in a classical music concert. And What this is doing for the brand is really building loyalty with existing and new customers, and allowing customers who aren't physically able to attend one of the hotels to be able to attend in a mixed reality world. So that's one example of how you can, in that example, you can build loyalty with your fans through a mixed reality, a physical plus digital experience.
And this works with high-end people. It's not sort of, well, I guess it's Gen Z perhaps, but I mean, you're talking here about high-end or ultra-high-end.
This is, I would say this is high-end, but interestingly, for this particular hotel brand, they have seen over the last 5 or 6 years, they've seen the average age of their most loyal customers dropping like a lead balloon. And that actually that shouldn't surprise us. Last week I was at this wonderful thing called Goodwood in the UK. I'm a complete diehard car fan. And I learned last week that the average age of a BMW owner is 54. The average age of a Rolls-Royce owner is 34. And what we're beginning to see now is that the age profile of loyal customers with Uber brands is actually dropping quite considerably. It's very, if you're on the streets of central London, it's really very evident.
Okay, a good comment. Does that answer the question, I hope? Yes. Okay. Right. I believe we have a question up the back.
Yes, Benjamin again. There's been a lot of innovations about product, about attracting new profiles. Do you see any trends in real sustainable innovation that actually work on reducing the luxury impact?
I mean, certainly we see a lot of sustainability practice there. This morning, there's a panel talk about sustainability. Consumer are not willing to pay for sustainability. I actually see the consumer are actually willing to pay for sustainability, in comparison with the product which is not sustainable. But as to whether to deluxurize the product, I personally see there is a trend among the young people. I can clearly see I have two, children who are in the university, and they don't just represent themselves, they represent their generation. So they started to buy, sustainable fashion. My daughter doesn't go to Zara, doesn't go to H&M, doesn't go to, Gucci. She will go to the vintage shop and to buy vintage, products. And some are luxuries, vintage, products. And I see this among the young people become very, popular for that. That I will let Max to say more.
Actually, on that point, something I'd like to add, and just to give you an insight into why I personally do really believe in the future of blockchain technology, is that if those of you that understand why blockchain technologies are immutable, so assets that are held on blockchains cannot be altered or falsified. But secondly, you can put computer code onto the blockchain. And what that means is for a content creator, so for example, a new fashion designer, what we can now do, which was never possible, and exactly what we're doing in my music company right now, is we can codify perpetual earnings for the content creator for the very first time. So whenever a garment, together with a physical garment with its digital equivalent, I don't like using NFT. I think that's old terminology now. But if you sell a garment together with the digital receipt or the certificate, what that actually means is you're doing good for the content creator who created this piece in the first place, whether they're a musician or a fashion designer. But at the same time, you're creating what we call the circular economy. And I think, I have a daughter who's also at university, and her spending patterns are exactly the same as probably your children's, because they do care very much about that.
Okay. Do we have another question? I think there's one over the other side, Ben, right over the other side. Yeah. Making him walk. Oh, okay, I didn't see that.
Where is it? Come on.
Thank you. I have one question regarding hospitality. Regarding hospitality, don't you think that the lack of innovation in the hospitality industry leads to the competition, the growing competition of Airbnb and different offers? Because at the beginning, when there were the big hotels like Ritz and all these big brands, they were reference, and what they did in the hotel was copied at home. But now I see no real innovation in the hospitality. I would like to know your opinion of both.
Is that a technology question or just a general question about hospitality?
Mainly about technology and what the hotel has to offer in aspect of innovation to the guest.
Yeah.
I think the technology innovation in hospitality is very present. The industry has been quite old, and some technology is really outdated. I saw some Chinese players really emphasizing that. For instance, they make the check-in process, payment process, and the whole sort of management of the room, from the curtains to TV to everything. It's very, they have this smart hotel management sort of system to really, upgrade the technologies and making consumers feels very refreshed when you live in hotels like that. So in some cases, the Chinese players are very pioneering. One thing about the Chinese player is they're willing to try, and risk things. And also the Chinese regulation also is a little bit different from the European and America. So I always say that America innovates and Chinese duplicates, but European regulates. So the European is regulations comes first before you can commercialize your product. But the Chinese like, okay, just do it, and if you run into a problem, then we're going to regulate you. So that's a different kind of way of doing things, but which allowed a lot of Chinese startup and Chinese hospitality group to try these kind of new things, for that.
Max, any comment?
Yeah. Just one real example I'll give to you is that am I allowed to mention a brand name or not?
Yes,
I am.
Yeah.
Okay, jolly good. So it's one of my personal favorites. I was in Dubai recently, where some of my companies are actually resident, and I stayed at the Mandarin Oriental in Dubai, which is really a beautiful hotel. And German general manager started to use ChatGPT to actually write poems to his most loyal fans. And they absolutely adore this. And he's now applying this technology to other things as well. But other than that, in the hotel, they now have a pop-up, which used to be based in Ibiza, has now moved to Dubai. And it's a lavish 14-course dinner that takes place, and it's theatrical. And one of the courses is a metaverse dining and wine tasting course, which I was completely blown away by.
Absolutely.
So there are I think people are.
So there's a lot of innovation.
There is a
happening
lot
in
of innovation starting to happen.
One thing that has to be said, and by the way, I was a member of Hotel Technology Next Generation (HTNG) for some time. One of the problems with hotels when we're talking about innovation in terms of in-room technology is a hotel cannot replace in-room technology every 2 or 3 years. Financially, it's not possible. Whereas in the home, you tend to replace your TV every few years if you want to, and things are rolling out all the time. So this means that in a lot of hotels, you're going to see things that maybe aren't quite so new. Even Mandarin Oriental in Las Vegas was the perfect example. It was the most up-to-date hotel in the world. And then a few years later, everybody decided it was rubbish because the technology was too hard to use. So, it's also a cost problem for the hotels doing that. So, but I think we've run out of time, unfortunately. We've way run out of time. But it's been great having you gentlemen with me, and I'd like to thank you very much for joining us. Thank you.
Thank you.